Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. I'm excited because we're not alone again today.
I love this. Whenever we have guests on the podcast, we're like, we're not alone. Who do we have
Yes.
with us? Oh, so really excited, guys, because we have the wonderful Claire Nutton from the Disruptive Yogi on the show today. So we had the absolute pleasure of meeting Claire a few weeks ago now because she is going to be coming into the membership on the 12th of July as our guest expert for this month's masterclass, which is how to cultivate a positive attitude with yoga and gratitude. And we cannot wait for that.
Yes.
And when we met Claire on this Zoom, after sort of a few minutes in, listening to Claire and her story, it was really clear to us that yoga is so much more than just a physical practice. Now, I've done yoga for quite some years, and I'll be completely honest, it's only of late that I'm realizing that it's so much more than just my flexibility or my strength or my tone. So we knew, didn't we, Charlotte, straight away? We're like, we need Claire on the show. We need Claire on the show. So welcome, Claire. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to chat.
yeah, amazing, amazing. It's so great to have you here. And yeah, let's dive straight in. What we'd love to start with is just a little bit more about you. So if you want to introduce yourself and maybe just tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are today. So yeah, well, hand straight over to you, Claire.
So much. So yeah, it's quite it's a meaty story, if you will, and it's been a journey. And there's a lot of pieces to it. I do have a tendency to waffle on, so do feel free to jump in whenever you. But I've always been in health and fitness and wellness. I've always been in that industry. I've always worked in gyms and studios. And it's been the last probably 10 to 12 years that I've actually been really interested in yoga. And what I was actually finding when I was making my way, working my way up the ladder into kind of being a personal trainer, because you start at the bottom, you start in the gym, and just a fitness instructor you're talking. So I'm making my way up. And what I was finding more and more is I've always worked with ladies, always worked with women, but I was finding women were hitting their goals, hitting all their targets, and they were looking absolutely fantastic. But they still wasn't happy. They just wasn't happy. They could never get enough. It was always a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I was then getting to the age, I was approaching 40, and I was finding the same with me. I was like, well, what is this? Why are we never happy with setting our goals, reaching our goals, and just never happy with this? We're always striving, aren't we? Instead of enjoying the fruits of our labor, if you will. And then it was actually, I had a sore back. I had a really, really bad back. So I stumbled in, quite literally, into a yoga class. And I was kind of, because I was always into, and I'm sure I'm not on my own here, but I was always into the high impact, the Les Mills, the go, go, go classes all the time. It had to be fast, it had to be sweaty, and the heart rate always had to be up. And that was how I was going to get my goals. That was how we do it. So I was a bit apprehensive to start with. And on a physical level and for my back, it was absolutely amazing. The results were, and I was like, oh, more of this in my life. I needed, so I dived in, flew off to India, spent a month out there, and really kind of cracked open this topic of yoga. And it was absolutely fascinating. And so what I started to do, it was the philosophy that I was really interested in, and bringing the philosophy back with me, because everybody likes doing the postures and the headstands and the handstand. We like that challenge, and it's a good thing to have. It's a healthy thing to have that challenge. But it's the philosophy that often gets forgotten, and working with the sutras. And with those, we can kind of start building that lifestyle. Sorry, the dog is just going absolutely mental.
That's okay.
Yeah, so it's pulling the sutras and bringing them into our lifestyle. So after spending a couple of hours cracking open yoga, and then started to bring the fitness and the wellness together, fast forward to lockdown, and I created this package where I brought all of that together under one roof, and I was getting better results on the mental mindset level with the ladies and the physical results. So it was combining the two, if you will. Does that make sense? It's really long-winded, and it's kind of a lot of pieces all built together, but it was what pulling everything together and looking at all of the aspects that I was actually happier with the results I was getting with the ladies I was working with.
That makes complete sense. It really does. And I love how you've, like, there's these two powerhouses that you've pulled together here, the fitness and the wellness and the mindset, because I can really relate to the whole, like, reaching the goals, especially on like an exterior, in terms of our bodies. You know, we're hitting these goals, we're looking good, but like there's still something not right inside. And that's where we go into the mindset and the wellness and the well-being. And it's kind of like, where's there something underneath in the subconscious that's kind of not aligned with what we think we want on the surface. So bringing them together to create the Disruptive Yogi
Absolutely
is incredible.
Absolutely. And it's also because I've got the nutrition behind me as well. So if you can tick all the boxes, and we're seeing a lot more of it now coming out, where nutrition plays an important part in balancing the hormones. And hormones are so integral to feeling and looking healthy. So when we're pulling all these pieces together, you're actually going to be the fittest, the healthiest, and the happiest that you've been in a very long time.
And it makes so much sense, doesn't it? Like, I was kind of, I know with my own kind of, I don't know whether I'd call it a fitness journey yet. I'm still just getting there. But I've had to do the mindset first before I've even kind of got myself a physical practice together. And I am doing things, but I know that I want to kind of get a bit more consistent, shall we say, with my fitness and especially nutrition, because that's something that's not on my radar yet. But yeah, I had to kind of get my mind in the right place to be able to do it. Otherwise, I would do it, but for the odd week or so, it'd drop off again. And like, you know, I could just, was just always letting myself down with exercising or with eating healthier. But now I see that when my mind's right, that's coming with much more ease. So I suppose I've done it the opposite way around.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think, and again, mindset's playing a huge part. We see it everywhere on social media at the moment. But if you can just pause for a moment, just slow down, because we're so open to social media all the time, the news all the time. It's like we're fighting against the modern day all the time, but we're moving 100 miles an hour. So if we can actually pause and slow down and go, okay, so what am I feeling with this? What do I feel? Instead of the comparing and working through comparing yourself with other people and what should be, because what should be for you is going to be totally different for what should be and what feels right for me. And I think that's the important thing, because everyone's fitness journey is going to look different as well. And I've got so many clients at the moment where we're not even doing the physical, so the yoga, they're sit down sessions, and it's mindset, and it's looking at nutrition, and it's visualizing your end goals without even getting a yoga mat out. And I think that's the fascinating thing. I mean, yes, movement. I'm not saying movement's not important. Movement's incredibly important, but that's going to look different from person to person, woman to woman. One woman might enjoy just the walking, just the beach walking, the hiking, the mountains. Another woman might just be fully involved in the yoga practice. So it's going to look different.
Yeah. And like you say, that mindset piece with yoga, like I'd never, until you said that, like, and kind of, you know, putting it all together, I'd not really processed this. But what I love about yoga is that you very mindfully go into it, don't you? And like, you kind of make sure that you're all there. You figure, like, kind of just have a moment to think of what your body feels like in that moment. And then you have that reflection at the end, think of how much stronger you feel. And even that, for me, as someone who hasn't really, you know, isn't on a fitness journey as such right now, that makes me want to go back, because I could see that progress rather than it be just another gym class that I do and forget about. So that mindfulness is so needed, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's that pause and reflect moment, that pause and And, you know, when you are moving, it's not necessarily the yoga postures that you're moving into, it's how your body's feeling in that moment. And I love teaching in a layering effect where, yeah, you might not be at headstand level at this time, but something else might feel really delicious to you right now, and you just might want to stay there. And what do my arms feel like in here? What does my spine feel like in here? Because I've practiced and qualified in quite a few different yoga, so like Ashtanga, Yin, and all the rest of it. And it's, yeah, but how does that apply to everybody? How does that apply to modern day? And are we moving the body as it should be moving? You know, we should be moving the spine, that flexion, that beautiful extension. And this is why we're getting all these back problems, because it's just compression all the time. And we're either sat down or we're just walking around all the time. So it's never getting that flexion and extension. So let's integrate that into our practice and move in a natural way.
So that's really interesting, Claire, about what you've just said about how with some of your clients, there's not even any movement in the first, few sessions or time with you. And it's more about sitting down and doing that mindset work and figuring out what's going on inside, so that when they then do move into the movement or the fitness with you, whether it be the yoga or the PT, it's from a different space and a different place where it then sticks and it then stays. And there's a deep reason why they're doing it. And I don't know if you relate to this, Shah. I know historically in the past I've kind of been on a workout, sort of regime or mission, and it just hasn't stuck. It's like it's been a couple of weeks and then I'm back to square one. And so I think it's really important that we highlight that doing that mindset work first. We just work out from a different place then, don't we? We really do.
Yes, yeah.
This was where I was coming. I think this kind of idea and this approach actually came out of lockdown, when we were in lockdown. And what I wanted to do was create a package, again for women, sorry blokes, but again for women, that's just how it works. Because I knew that when we were coming out of lockdown after so long, we were coming back to a new world, a new way of being, if you will. And I knew that women would find this overwhelming. And so what I wanted to do was just create a 4-week package where I was preparing them with the mindset, with the nutrition, and just putting them in a strong place to make that transition over. But from that package, this was really where the Disruptive Yogi came from, because this was where I got a lot of results, because it was prepping the mind. It was doing a lot of the mind work. It was actually sitting down and doing clear goal setting and just kind of coming back to the moment and thinking, okay, so how do I want to proceed with this? How do I want to move forward? And it's like you just said about, sometimes we're so interested in that end goal. So we're starting this fitness journey or we're starting this journey that we're actually not really clear. We're just thinking, okay, I want to go from A to Z, but what about all this in the middle? What about when I get distracted? What about when my friends want to go out for tea? What about, do you know what I mean? All the distractions that come up.
Yeah.
And with with everything that's going on, we're almost fighting a losing battle. So you need to know yourself and your values and your goals before you can kind of work through it. But when I was saying about working with the ladies that haven't stepped foot on the mat or started with the movement process just yet, these are usually, a lot of them are women that are suffering terribly with anxiety, depression. There's a few other medical issues that are going on as well. But we can still tap into the philosophy to prepare them for that movement, so that it's not just another thing that you're adding to create or add to that anxiety and that overwhelm. Does that make sense? Yeah. And a lot of ladies are quite fearful of the expectation, quite fearful of being surrounded by other people in the gym, or, and you hear it quite often, but making a fool of themselves. Because you do on social media, what you see in yoga is these beautiful women beaches in beautiful postures, which we all love, 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 love. But there's so much more we can take from it.
Yeah. You just remind, because there was one pose that I saw and it was online and I was like, oh wow, like that looks incredible. And and you think, I think I can do that. And I started to do it and I was like, no, I'm not there yet. I was like, but it is, and I love what you just said there. It's enjoying it, isn't it? And I think that's what I found the difference and why I've really taken to yoga as opposed to being in the gym, because it's about enjoying it in the moment and not being so focused on that end goal, but actually getting to know yourself and your body and how you move. Because even in a yoga class, we all move in different ways and we can all do something better than someone else. Like someone might be more flexible in one way, but then I love how you can just switch the direction and I'm like, oh, I can do it that side. Or
knowing that's okay though, knowing that's,
yeah,
I know I've been in yoga classes before and it has been a big ego trip, and that's scary. That's
yeah,
really to be in there. And luckily they're few and far between. But I always encourage when I'm on the mat with ladies, just look, your shape might not look like my shape. You got to remember how much I do yoga. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But how do you feel? How do you feel in that? How's the body feeling? What's coming up for you? Where's it coming up? Do you need to back up? What point is your ego stepping in there? So you just take away that competition. We're in competition almost 23 hours of our 24 hours. There's competition all the time, isn't it? Feels like
yeah.
it.
And that's it. Yeah. Figuring out what your way is and what feels good to you. I love that. I really, really love that. That's such a magical part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, because we lose ourselves. We're
Yeah.
going fast, so fast, that we lose ourselves a little bit in terms of what's supposed to be, what's meant to be, what you've got all these ideas. It's a
Yeah.
magic world, but sometimes with our primitive brains, it gets too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
It's
And there's just
really
so much power in the now, isn't there? And just like being in that moment. I know we had this conversation about different readings that we've all read, like when we first spoke. And I read The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, and I'm like, it makes so much sense. Like if we're worrying or stressed or feeling anxious, we're either living in the future that's not happened yet, or we're living in the past that we can't change. And what about when you think of just in this moment, right? And it took me a lot. It's really simple, but there's no problems in the present. Like, and I couldn't comprehend that at first, but I'm like, there is no problem in this moment that we're in right now. If we're worried or we're anxious or we're stressed, we're literally playing in the past or the future. And it takes work to get back to that. But that's what yoga, that's a new one. Yoga does so beautifully, isn't it?
It absolutely does. And I think it is a mindset. It's the same as meditation. Meditation is probably one of the hardest things it took for me to get. And I can remember when I was in India and we were practicing meditation, and it's in the jungle. And so we've got all these chattering monkeys and crows going off. And I was like, I didn't even know crows were in India, but they
Love that.
But yeah, and so they're making all this noise, and we were made to do like an hour or two's meditation, and I'm getting really frustrated with myself, thinking, "What? I can't do it. I'm useless at this," because you've got other people just sat there like eyes closed and everything. But in actual fact, when you practice it and realize it's not about not thinking about anything, not feeling anything, it's about bringing yourself back to this moment and actually not having attachment or reaction to the thoughts and what's going on around you. And once you can get to that point, you can meditate anywhere. Like I'll literally
Yeah.
be sat here, and you'll be like, it's that staring off to space and just kind of like shut down moment, and then coming back in again. And it's beautiful when you get it. It's beautiful. But that's the most challenging thing, to get meditation and get the right meditation for you as well, because everyone's different.
And again, there's no right or wrong way, isn't there? Because I think when I first started meditating, again, you have that view that you're sat on a mat, you've got your hands like this, you're completely switched off, and that's it. But those thoughts do come up, and like you say, it's just not attaching to them and it's letting them flow. And you've made me realize that I probably meditate a little bit more than I realize, actually,
Yeah.
because sometimes I'll do that when I'm sat and like my girls are running around, or like there's quite a lot going on, but I just sit and really just sit in that moment and just kind of,
Yeah.
I'm watching everything go on, but I'm just right there.
That's it. And that's
Yeah,
it. And I'm
yeah,
aware of it. That's it. And it's like, oh, right, this is it. This is it.
yeah. And it's like when you go and like watch a sunset, and you know, and like nothing else matters because you're watching that sunset. We actually were talking about this in the club, weren't we, last night, Kat? That's what we're after. Like,
Right there, where you're not affected by yesterday, you're not affected by tomorrow, you're in that moment, and it's such a serene feeling. I don't even know if it's got a name, and that's probably why you don't know until you get there, but that's the piece right there. And you'll find some people will get there through visualization and through sitting there just in peace. Other people will get that on the beach or walking, or and we all get there in different ways, and that's why it's about educating people and going, this is what it looks like. It doesn't have to look like what you're seeing on social media. It doesn't have to look like, how do you feel when you do this? Okay, so that doesn't work. So how do you feel when you do this? What do you enjoy doing?
yeah.
And it's getting to that, and it's just kind of leave everything else behind and just focus on you, which we forget to do.
And it's shifting, like you said, Claire, it's shifting that perception of what meditation is. Like similarly, Charlotte, I had that perception that it was cross-legged, chanting on, eyes closed. And I started meditating with a 10-minute meditation from YouTube in the mornings while I'm drinking my cup of coffee with my eyes wide open, but just having that time. And I don't know if you ladies agree with this, but it is the most powerful recharge, isn't it? If we're really like, we're time pressured, or time feels tight, right? There's not enough time to this, not enough time to that. If we're feeling that way, just actually stopping and practicing meditating, and it can look like that, just putting one on YouTube for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's almost like the recharge is not 5 minutes worth. It's like 5 hours worth. I don't know if you feel that, but just stopping for those 5 minutes and going, this time is for me, this moment is for me.
Yeah.
I'm in the present. It's like a power charge, isn't it?
I was just envisaging like plugging yourself in like you would your phone, isn't it? It's like that, just
Absolutely, because what you've got to remember is what we're always very aware of the external. What we're not aware of, and again, this is coming to light, and you're seeing a lot more of it now, is the internal. And that's when things are out of balance on the inside. And that's why I always team meditation with breath work, because if we can bring our, my words gone blank now, but if we can bring our inhale, that exhale to equal lengths, then we're going to bring our body, our hormones into equal lengths as well, into balance, into equilibrium as well, because we can't see the chaos that's going on inside. We can't see we're not breathing correctly. We breathe into the chest all the time, and that's going to increase our anxiety. If we take that breath all the way down into the belly, full deep breaths, and exhale at an equal length, then that's going to bring everything back down into balance. That's going to calm the mind. That's going to, reassure. You've got to remember, we're a part of our brain and our mind, but quite often it's the other way around. The mind is controlling us. We've got to take back that control and go, look, you're okay, you're safe. All our brain, all our mind wants to do is keep us safe. So it's going to see all these dangers, all these red flags all the time. Especially if we've got trauma, especially if we've got things going on, children, we're going to see all these kind of red flags all the time. So we've got to reassure our brain, our mind, just by bringing everything back into that equal state and go, look, we're good, we're all right. And then that's when you feel that way, is because, no, I'm calm, I'm good, there's nothing here that's going to hurt me, we're good to go.
Love
wow
that.
I love that. And time on the mat is the space to do that, isn't it? And it's really clear that it's more than a physical thing, isn't it? Time on the mat it's a holistic, a whole head to toe mind body connection. There's just so much more, isn't there, that meets the eye to yoga.
there's a lifestyle. And I think, you know, once you can once you can gain more control over your mind, once you can pay more attention to you as a person and what you want, and kind of what's going on that level, once you can balance your nutrition, and once you can find a move that feels healthy and natural, and feels good to you and everything you've got going on, then you're doing a good job. Then you're kind of on that right journey, that fitness journey, that wellness journey, when you're pulling all these pieces together.
Love that. Yeah.
Amazing. And it's a practice, like anything, isn't it? It's all a practice, and it takes time, and it just takes to start, doesn't it? To start and begin. So with that in mind, Claire, if one of our listeners is thinking, this sounds delicious, this sounds delicious, is there a bit of a starting point that you'd give for somebody that maybe hasn't even done yoga before, or perhaps has done yoga a bit like myself for, you know, fitness reasons? Is there anything you'd encourage them to do, or a starting place to kind of get off the blocks with it?
Get off the blocks, yeah. So I mean, one of the biggest things that I always say, and again, you hear this a lot, is journaling. So journaling is amazing. And I encourage this with every one of my one-to-one sessions. And I always give it as a little piece to start with, mainly because whatever we've got inside our heads, sometimes it just feels such a relief and so cathartic when we're just getting it down on paper. And quite often, it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense. And then you might look over it in a few days' time, and you'll be like, right. So that was bothering me. And that's that. And so I always say, if you can create a habit, because habits and habit loops and all the rest of it, and that's a whole nother podcast. But creating that habit of journaling is giving you that time and that space back to yourself to get whatever's inside outside. Because, you know, if you think about, if you're feeling really pent up, or even if you're feeling excited, either way, when you speak to somebody, you feel better about it, don't you? And you feel, so if you haven't got that person to speak to, or you don't want to speak to somebody, get it down on paper. Just write. Just set the timer, 5-10 minutes, get yourself a book, and just begin to write. Doesn't matter what you're writing. There's no pressure. Just whatever's coming up in here, just put down on paper. So I always say journal, get it all out, everything out. I think we store so much internally, and sometimes we can't talk about things. Sometimes it's difficult. You know, it's really difficult to find the right person that we trust to talk to. So I totally get that. So always journaling. And then I think if you can start with your breath work as well, then you're going to start to work on an internal level just to bring that balance back again. And remember to bring that down into your belly. And then the third part would be persevere with your meditation. If you can meditate, try to persevere with your meditation. If you don't know what that looks like, then always contact a yoga teacher, or I've got lots of tips on social media about it as well. And then move your body, whatever that looks like and feels like to you. Move your body as naturally as you can. Yeah. So get that attention. Move your shoulders. Think about the direction and the movement that your joints can actually do. They can do so much, but when did we last do hip circles? When did we last rotate our wrists and our ankles? You know, move naturally. The way the body's intended to move.
Oh, I love that.
That's really sound advice, isn't it? And we are team journaling over here,
yes,
aren't we? Well, team journaling, team meditation, team move. And it just removes that overwhelm, doesn't it? Like, we can do these things in bite-sized pieces.
Absolutely. You know, your goals, your achievement. And, you know, I always say, and I'll talk more about this next week, but if you're in a really, can I say really crappy place, the best thing you can do is journal on gratitude. Look at what you're grateful for now. And I think you can always come back to journaling on the moment you go, okay. And even if you feel really low, as I know a lot of people do, it's the tiny things, you know, the birds that sing, the pets, the kids, you know, just the little things that you think, no, actually, I'm really grateful for this. And I think that can help with overwhelm as well. When you just pause, just slow down and go, okay, so what's happening now? What am I grateful for now? It's good to have the goals and achievements and all the rest of it, but don't forget to be grateful for now, for what you've got surrounding you now. I think that's something I'd come back time and time again. Gratitude.
I love that.
A lot of dark.
I had a bit of a moment a few weeks ago where I was sat, it was a Sunday and I was outside, and Denzel, our dog, was lay on the grass, and me and my husband were just having a coffee, like a morning coffee, like, and just outside because the sun was shining and it was lovely. And I had a moment, didn't I? I think I've shared this on a podcast before, where I was just like, even when I've reached my wildest dreams and I've done all of my goals, I still want to do this. And that was such a moment for me where I was like, oh,
Yeah.
like literally, I've got this right now. And sometimes we can get so focused on where we're going and moving in that direction, which is obviously great because we want to have a place that we're going to and a goal. But then it's realizing that you've got it now as well, isn't it? And got elements of your day that are how you would like them to be in the future as well. So like living those and enjoying them, and like you say, tapping into that gratitude for them now. And this is such a mind-blowing thing for me because I'm like, I just feel like I finally get manifestation. Like, you know, and you just like,
Yeah.
I've got that now. Like it's a feeling and I've got access to that now. And now I was thinking I've just completely surrendered now. And I'm like, I'm just open to all opportunities, all things that are coming my way.
Because you've got action, you've got that aligned action, and that's what you'll get with being grateful, because it's the little things that make the bigger things. And when you're in alignment, you're going to be moving in the right direction.
Yes. Yeah.
Not when you're in alignment, the action's going to come, and you're like, yeah, it's these small things. This is what we're living for. This is, this is the thing.
Definitely. And yeah, obviously gratitude. There's so much science behind that, isn't there? And
it's so powerful, honestly. If you can just pause, and like I say, you don't need a lot, you don't need millions of pounds, but we have all got so much that we take for granted on, if we're fit and if we're healthy, if we've got all of our limbs, you've got so much already. We're waking up every day, and especially now in modern day, we've got so many opportunities. I mean, I've got children in school. Well, one of my sons has left school now, and I look at the way that they do homework now, and it's not reading through textbooks anymore.
Crazy.
I know, you don't have to go to the library and get 10 books out, and then you feel like your mum, don't you?
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh, absolutely.
So opportunities open to us. It's amazing out there if we can just pull it back a little bit and just pause, slow down, and just remember who you are.
And there's always a choice, isn't there, of how we choose to see things. There really is. So oh, amazing. It has been so incredible to chat with you, Claire. And as we mentioned, guys, Claire is in the membership in July for our guest expert masterclass. So if you'd love to hear more from Claire, then come join us in the club. And also, Claire, you have your own podcast show, so we will share that in the show notes. All of Claire's socials. Get over to her Instagram, give her a follow. It's, guys, honestly, the value that you share, Claire, is amazing. So please do jump over and follow the Disruptive Yogi.
I really loved what you said as well, that success is like alcohol. That really got me, and I was like, yes.
Few little cute things going on there.
Yes, it's
focus, aren't they?
Absolutely. And it's getting these foundations right, isn't it? So that we can live and thrive and do the things that we want to do. And then
that's it in enough foundations. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And then when we get to that success, it feels how it's meant to feel, doesn't it?
Because you're in a line all the time, and I think this is where, and we're going off again, but I think this is where, when you're comparing, you've got to remember what feels right to you, not your best friend, not, that's their journey. What's right for you?
Yes. Yeah. Love that. What an ending that is. Yeah. All about what is right for us and getting rid of any of those shoulds. That's one word that we like put a ban on in the membership. We're like, no shoulds.
Stay in our lane, isn't it? Stay in our lane.
Yes,
That journey.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
incredible.
amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Claire. It's been incredible to chat to you. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Yeah. See you next week. Oh, take care.
Take
Bye,
care.
Claire.
Bye.
Bye.